Bienvenidas y bienvenidos a este segundo día, esta segunda jornada del ITworldEdu 2019. Como ya hicimos ayer, vamos a empezar repasando un poquito el programa para que sepamos todos qué nos depara el día de hoy. Para empezar, Suero, director del ITworldEdu, moderará la sesión The Future of Education. Es una sesión que será en inglés, pero tendremos traducción simultánea para quien la necesite. Después tendremos a los 5 finalistas para competir en la primera semifinal de los GIS Awards. Al finalizar tendremos unos 30 minutos para tomar un café igual que ayer, pero también lo podríamos aprovechar para explorar el espacio expositor y el espacio de innovación con startups que hay justo aquí fuera, mientras hacemos networking y pues eso, bebemos un poquito de zumo, té, café, nos relajamos. A las 11:15 tendréis la segunda oportunidad para asistir en la primera planta a las 2 sesiones de tecnologías disruptivas y educación que ya se celebraron ayer y que hoy repiten, inteligencia artificial y Big Data. Y también habrá en paralelo la presentación del proyecto SOLE. Y continuando con el horario en paralelo tendremos las sesiones temáticas. A las 12:45 aproximadamente, digo aproximadamente porque ya sabéis cómo va esto, que a veces los ponentes pues se alargan un poquito, pero no pasa nada. Oye, aquí estoy yo para cortarlo todo. Pues a las 12:45 aproximadamente nos encontraremos todos otra vez aquí en el auditorio para celebrar la entrega del reconocimiento a la divulgación de las TIC aplicadas a la educación para María Caso, que es la jefa de educación del Museo Nacional Centro Reina Sofía. Después tendremos las conclusiones de esta edición por Miquel Àngel Prats, miembro del Comité Científico de ITworldEdu. Y antes de la conferencia del keynote speaker Stephen Heppel, tendremos la clausura del Congreso a cargo de Marc, directora general de Innovació, Recerca y Cultura Digital de la Generalitat de Catalunya, y de Suero, director del ITworldEdu, que lo habréis visto al principio. Así que nada. Mucha suerte a todos hoy y espero que sea suficientemente empoderado y que podáis conocer un montón de cosas. Y empezamos con la primera sesión. Para presentar esta sesión contamos con Magí Almirall, en representación de SM Educamos, quien nos dirigirá unas palabras.
Soy un pequeño milagro. Una página en blanco, un camino sin explorar. Quiero ser el futuro del mundo, pero también soy presente. Soy ahora y mañana. Soy uno solo y todos a la vez. Porque soy lo que otros me darán, lo que otros me enseñarán, lo que otros me inspirarán, lo que haré yo por los demás. Descúbreme la grandeza de las pequeñas cosas. Revélame todos los colores, diferentes paisajes, realidades. Enséñame a respetarlas, a valorarlas y a celebrarlas. Acompáñame, dame las palabras, ajústame las alas, pon motor a mi barca. Muéstrame que los límites se pueden traspasar. Invítame a no acomodarme, a anticiparme y a no tener miedo a transformar el mundo. Quiero ser mano que acoge, que cuida, que arropa, que acaricia, que mueve, que guía. Quiero empeñarme en llegar más lejos, en subir más alto, en volar más libre y en pisar más firme. Crecer a ritmo constante o inconstante, pero crecer, siempre crecer. Y es que algún día seré yo quien espere y guíe a los que vendrán tras de mí, porque soy aprendizaje continuo, porque soy movimiento infinito. SM, la educación nos mueve.
Hola, bon dia. Moltes gràcies per estar aquí, especialment gràcies a l'equip de l'ITworld que ha trobat en aquest moment, en aquest dia, una perfecta ocasió per connectar les tres grans suites de navegació, de serveis que estem fent servir a les escoles. Per una banda, Microsoft, i tenim a lobby, Google ha vingut al Marc, en Welcome Martin, de Moodle. Jo crec que és una gran ocasió perquè veiem unes eines que estem integrant tots a l'escola, a vegades amb Educativas, a vegades amb Alexia, amb Cliquedo, amb 1000 plataformes, però sempre estem integrant o Microsoft o Google o Moodle i sempre les estem posant a les escoles. Són eines que s'han estès per la universitat, però que en les escoles, encara que comencen a tenir un ús, doncs sempre hi ha una problemàtica perquè realment, us he de dir els tres, que són eines que fan servir les persones grans i aquestes persones petitetes que teníem amb el vídeo doncs tenen els seus problemes per fer-les servir i moltes vegades molts de nosaltres a les escoles doncs tenim dificultats per fer servir, per accedir en aquestes eines amb la nostra canalla i per tant doncs tenim moltes ganes d'escoltar-nos i que ens expliqueu com l'escola, com l'educació pot fer servir les vostres eines. Moltes gràcies, bon dia.
Muy bien. Bueno, han dicho que el panel sería en inglés, será principalmente en inglés, pero seguramente iremos cambiando un poquito, ¿no? Iremos variando de idioma en función de cómo veamos la cosa. Aquí a mi derecha tenemos a dos valencianos, dos valencians, a la izquierda un australiano, entonces el idioma vamos a ir variando en función de todo o de cómo fluya todo. ¿De acuerdo? Okay, thanks. First of all, what do we have here? No? Last summer, in July, we were starting preparing this Congress, and we had an idea, all the team of the Congress. No? I mean, there's a fact, and the fact is that your companies are an amazing, big influencers right now, today, on the educational sector. I mean, all of our audience knows you. I mean, you go here and you cannot reach the stairs without stopping 10 times. This is a fact, okay? So that happens. And we thought in July that we, the educational sector, would deserve to know about your position in terms of education, what's going on, what's going to happen in the next 5 years. How do you see the world? I mean, you are such big. We're not talking here about hundreds of users. I mean, we're talking about millions, millions. No? So if you have millions of users in your hands, I think it's really important to know and that you have the chance to explain your position about that. No? And well, first I want to thank Educativas for facilitating this panel. This is great, and thanks to Maggi. And thanks to you, because I think, I don't know if it hasn't happened before that we have in the same stage Microsoft, Google, and Moodle. So I think we have a great opportunity. Yeah. I make a little introduction about you three of us. I don't want to lose 10 minutes talking about the CVs. Just I'm going to take two personal tips, okay? Here we have Martin from Australia. I think, well, I knew you tonight. We were drinking here in the dinner. I think Martin has put his headquarters here in Barcelona, which is something relevant. I think he's passionate about Barcelona. You like sailboating, you have your family, you travel, I think, most of the time during the year around. And for me, this is great. And I want to remark that your bet about Barcelona, about the city, because I think it's great for all the people who love that city and live here, okay? We have Obi Barceló here from Microsoft. He came from Amsterdam yesterday night. So thanks a lot for traveling another flight and whatever. He has been a teacher. I mean, you spent 15 years in classroom. 15 years, I don't know if you have made the calculation, maybe you spend 20,000 hours inside the classroom with kids. It's something, yeah, you should do the math, so it's important. And he's a marathon man, which I'm really impressed about that. So that's my presentation and your tip. And we have Marc Sanz López there. Ahora voy a hablar en castellano porque no sé decir lo que tengo que decir en inglés, que lo que me impresiona de ti, Marc, es tu foto en Google, que estás haciendo la vertical, ¿sí? Y no sé si esto está preparado, si eres capaz de hacerla, te aguantaste bien, pero de verdad que esa foto me impresionó enormemente.
Es un hobby extraño mío que hago el pino en sitios extraños.
Muy bien, bueno, estaba muy bien. No estaba preparado entonces, ¿eh?
Preparado, es que no sé qué foto es.
¿Sabes hacer el pino? Y
sí,
vale,
tengo muchísimas.
Estamos bien. Esta era la primera pregunta y la más relevante de todo el panel, ¿no? So let's go. First question. I mean, I want something que sea dinámico. So I will let you 5 minutes to explain what we send you a mail and whatever, which is what are you doing in education? How your company is going in K-12 education? I mean, where you start in university and so on, but your company has a long history. You were born lots of years ago. I don't know if your focus when you were born was what you're doing here. What are your plans in education? How do you see education for the next years? So I will let just 5 minutes to explain that, all of you, and then we start talking in a more open way. Okay, that's a first and easy question because, as you remember, we're not here to talk about platform functionalities. I mean, we're talking about life, about education, and how do you see our world here? Okay, so who wants to start? I mean, I don't mind. Marc?
Martin trouble the
Martin?
Okay, we'll do it like that, it's fine. Yeah, bom dia, good morning. I've been doing this for 20 years, working on Moodle, and just one product mostly for 20 years. So it began at the university where I was trying to solve problems for staff who were teaching in the university. And I was doing some teaching too, and I was solving problems directly. I had a computer science background, and as I was starting to try and help people use the internet as it was growing in the 90s, I found that I needed to go in directions where we hadn't been before. There were not any tools that existed to have that kind of interactivity and collaboration on the internet, or through the web particularly, that we hadn't really seen before, but I knew was possible. So I was building tools directly with teachers from the beginning. And as Moodle grew, that's the theme of what we've done. Moodle, being an open source project, is the heart of a community. And we have input from people with backgrounds ranging from heavy computer science all the way to very theoretical education, and all the practitioners in between. They're all working together on improving the way that we interact through the internet using Moodle. So Moodle's designed as a very flexible, a very modular system that you can take, and because it's open source, you just take it for nothing, and you use it in a particular scenario. So whether it's a university or a school or a corporate setting or a hospital or a lot of military use Moodle, all these use cases, you take that software, you turn things off, you turn things on, you add new code for what you need to integrate with other things, and you create exactly what's required for that particular situation. And my belief has always been that that's the best way to make software. That it's instead of one size fits all, you need to customize, you need to be human. Humans do not operate the same way everywhere. One school to the next school will not operate the same way. One university to the next university, or one company to the next company. So I believe technology needs to be something that we the people own. That we the people have control over our technology. We own this stuff. The technology is an extension of how we interrelate and how we work together. So if we own it, we can customize it, we can make it what we really need. And through the open source mechanism, we can share those innovations so that if somebody discovers something new here, the rest of the world now has ability to take advantage of that. And some of the most, Moodle's not new here. Open source is huge. I would say a good proportion of Google and Microsoft relies on Linux and Unix. Linux and Unix are an example of an open source approach to developing systems that actually support almost everything on the internet these days is running on open source that way. Look at things like email, right? We all use a lot of messaging, but I bet you every single person here has looked at their email today. Email is an open standard with open source software everywhere that lets it work. And every one of us can contact every other person through this system. Who owns email? Everyone and no one, right? These are the systems, the infrastructure that we need to be thinking about, I think, if we're looking into the future of technology and especially education. Education being the most critical activity that we can be doing to improve the planet, to think about the next generation, to how do we make a better world through education, and we need to rely on these kind of open technologies to do that, I think. And so Moodle, for 20 years I've been working on it. It's growing and growing, and I'm traveling more and more, and 60% of higher education in the world uses Moodle. So as you said, the responsibility on us is huge. It's huge. And all of my work is focused on how do we get those people in our community to work together to create that future.
Great. Thanks a lot, Martin. Perfect.
Thanks.
Obi, Marc?
I don't know, to follow the order, maybe?
Okay, yeah. Make it geometrical. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. Last time I was here, maybe I was a teacher still. So it's good to be here representing Microsoft. And, well, we have a motto, which is like, empower every person / student, every student in the planet to achieve more. And saying every student or every person in the planet is a big word. So if we are talking about what we are offering to education, how do we see education in the future, we can talk about, of course, future-ready skills. We have heard this many times. Depending on the speaker you're listening to, they're talking about 1%. But what we know is that in the future or in the present, a huge share of the jobs and roles will be related to technology. And we will need to have those skills to be ready to the future. And our students, we need to have those skills to be ready to the future. So this could be the first thing to highlight. Second, when we talk about every person in the planet, and we see it in the video that SM has presented, we need to talk about accessibility. Yesterday we celebrated the Day of Awareness of Accessibility in Education, and we have millions. There are millions of people and millions of students in the classroom that need something special for their education. So if we are telling everybody that we need to empower every person, we cannot forget about those millions of people. And then looking to the future, we can talk about artificial intelligence. How the artificial intelligence that we see, we can think of it like a very futuristic thing, a robot or something, like it's not here or it's only for the freaks. Artificial intelligence is helping us every single day and can help to make the classroom more personal, more customized to every individual. So artificial intelligence is a big piece of what we are putting on the table in terms of our offering in education. And the last thing is data. We are in the era of data. All the companies that are succeeding right now are because of data. But I know I'm kind of freak, so I cannot help just to tell some freak stuff around. So a great power, it comes with a great responsibility, right? And sorry for that. And what I'm saying is that these companies owning that amount of data, there will be an ethics behind that. And this is a great part of our work. So everybody's collecting data, everybody's using data. How can we take that data and make it available for everybody, but with ethics behind of that? I will say that overall Microsoft has changed, mostly in the recent times with the new CEO. And it's amazing how one person can change a big company like that. But it's like a teacher. How one single individual can change so many people. And you can tell it. And you can tell it in Microsoft. The culture, the philosophy has changed a lot. We learned a lot from our competitors. A lot.
You're welcome.
No, you need to be honest. We need to be super honest, and I think we learn. And there is one sentence, and with this I'm done, that we need to change, and we can apply this to the classroom, to the companies. We change from know it all to learn it all, and this little shift has made big difference in the company and what we are putting on the table.
Okay, thanks a lot, Toby.
No worries.
Marc, your turn.
We've definitely learned a lot from our competitors as well. That's for sure. I mean, I think that's our responsibility, pretty much, right? Like, what are we doing if not learning from everyone? And at the end of the day, I don't think there's a typical sentence that companies owe themselves to the shareholders. And the line of command is that way, right? But if customers are right and shareholders are wrong, you know who to follow, right? Like customers, at the end of the day, customers are always right. So it doesn't matter what the shareholders tell you. You owe you to the people you add some value to. You owe it for own survival, honestly, but definitely for ethics as well. I think that's a great point you bring up. With any sort of power, and that data is definitely a very, very fast increasing one, there needs to be a lot of ethics around. I believe we, the high spheres of both the companies, we're working really hard on those topics. I think we published the AI principles on our site as well, because it seems to be really about how you design AI more than whether you ethically apply it afterwards or not, which is also a topic, but it seems much more is like, how are you going to design it? How are you going to make sure it's not biased for gender, race, and all kind of stuff? And at the end of the day, if you show a representative data from the world now to an AI algorithm, since the world is biased in many ways, for example, around gender or race or class, then those biases obviously represent themselves within the data as well, right? I just thought that was an interesting topic. I thought I'd cover it. In terms of education, which at the end of the day, data is a small component, growing, but small. Our mission at Google is open technology to improve learning everywhere, for everyone, everywhere. Great sentence. What does it mean, right? I always say it's hard to actually kind of understand what the impact of those missions are. But what I think the most important component of ours, it's very aligned with Martin's, right? Not as much. You'll see us as like, oh, you see this open source, but we are very committed to open technology. In fact, a lot of you guys probably here know Chromebooks or Chrome browser. It's open source, all of it. It's in chromium.org. You can actually make your own project. In fact, our friends here at Microsoft got all the open source of Chromium and decided to build a browser on top, which I think is great. That's what it's for exactly, right? For collaboration, and so that we all kind of like build on top of what others have built. We all owe a lot to Linux anyway, so there's no point on taking credit on anything, right? So what does this mean in reality, right? Because we can talk very high-level goals and high-level speeches, and at the end of the day, a lot of you here are teachers. Actually, I'd like to know, how many people here are teachers? With a class, dealing with the monsters, all right.
About 50%.
About 50%, I'd say, yeah. So it's tomorrow, Saturday, not tomorrow, right? On Monday, you guys have to go to class again, and doesn't matter what we said here, you have the same challenges exactly as the day before, right? So in Google, we're seeing one of the biggest challenges in the world right now, and honestly, we can't solve it with AI, is the obsession, the over-indication, or the overweight that hardware is having in the education conversations, in the education technology conversations. We're seeing so many purchases. I'd say a big majority, more than 50%, which is complete made-up percentage, of course, of the purchases are people that are just buying hardware. They don't have a pedagogical project where technology is supporting that project. They don't have a pedagogical innovation project where they have some clear path, some process, training, leadership, all the different components that make innovation work. They're just buying hardware. And that includes us as well. And I think this is very important for me to say, not because I see it as like, oh, look at that hairy problem, but rather because I think we're part of the problem. A big one, in fact. Right? At the end of the day, I always tell people, listen, we're not pedagogues at Google. We might seem sometimes, because we talk about education, we certainly are not. The experts of education are on that part of the stage, and Ovi and whoever's been a teacher in their past life or in their current life. But we have a responsibility to say, listen, very strong message. I keep telling schools, listen, when you buy devices, doesn't matter the brand, please have a project before. Otherwise, whatever money we're going to spend there, spend on coaches and training for your teachers so that they actually find a proper project. And I prefer you to get a third of the devices, but invest 10 times more in training and leadership, or even allocate that budget throughout a 10-year period. Because we know from research that big investments that then do not continue in different years could have actually a very detrimental effect, because you lose trust from the teachers and the leaders in the school in order to keep making those investments, because they don't know if they're going to have them next year. So what are we trying to do in Google, right? It's a complex mission, and I think it's changing a lot. What we did in the last 10 years is not what we'll have to do in the next 10 years, right? A lot of you here probably use G Suite, what Google Apps, as we called before, know about it. The last 10 years, in our opinion, were about bringing all the informatics tools that have been there such instrumentally in our workplace and school for a long time online and collaborative. We thought that was absolutely essential for the kind of economy and society, right? Forget about education. At the end of the day, we're preparing for happy and productive people in society. We thought it was about bringing that collaboration and productivity up there. I think that's done. I think our competitors have collaborative tools as well, and I think the goal there was differentiation is a collateral benefit, but the main goal was to just give those tools to you guys. And I think we're there. We'll keep improving on those, but I don't think anyone's lacking those tools anymore, right? You might lack access, that's a different story. And the next 10 years, in my opinion, is going to be about, okay, how do we make this about education and pedagogy again? As opposed to like telling, oh, you have problems in your school? No worries. I have Gadget 5000X here, right? They'll solve all your problems. It will automate. Oh, your teachers don't know? Don't worry. AI will do it for them. It's like, whoa, it doesn't work this way. We don't think teachers are there to be substituted. It's not that we ethically don't want them to be substituted. Don't get me wrong. Every good businessman wants employees to be substituted by a machine. They're more reliable. I'm not lying. There's no way we can. There's just no way. Not in the next 10, 20 years, it seems to me. Because this education is so much more than just showing you a few videos or a few textbooks, right? It's a humanization process. And what we see dire lacking, and sorry, I'm making a small monologue of this, but is that I don't think we're equipping teachers with the tools they need. I don't think we're giving them professional education instruments, such as the ones that doctors have. I don't think we're giving them enough time for research. And I certainly don't think we're giving them enough time to dedicate to the students, right? How many things does a teacher do in a school that are not teaching? That's pretty insane, right? So yeah, I think those challenges are big ones. We don't know how to solve them. We do think it's going to be a more team collaboration process than just let's bring a new product from Google that will solve this. It'll be more about who can we partner with and understand each other and provide, mutual expertise and synergies to solve those problems.
Okay, great. So let's start a conversation. I think data is on the table. Yeah, that's big. As you have said in your amazing sentence, big power implies big responsibility. So power would be the data. Let me put the next question in the form of an example. No? We read in a newspaper, for instance, that in China they are using facial recognition just to control the behavior of students in classroom. So data has two faces. On one hand, we have control. On the other hand, we have interpretation, use it as for personal growing, organizational growing. So I just want to spend 5 minutes talking about really how can we make it sure that we are going to use data in a good mood. Because with Martin, we were talking just last night. I mean, people is not bad, or I mean, people is good. I mean, that's a position, no? But well, what's going on here?
Well, if I may, you keep looking at me, so I'll speak. It is the question of the age. Data is the new oil. I have a fundamental... there are many ways we can treat data, and I think we are still exploring that as a species. What are the private-public boundaries? I will say I do not think the answer is to centralize all the control and processing of all of our data under one or two profit-focused companies. I think that is a fundamental mistake going forward for humanity. Unless they're heavily regulated and controlled by government, and that is not the case yet because they're still wrestling with this. Now we have Mark Zuckerberg walking around visiting governments to try and get them into his framework. And although I love what happens at big companies such as Google and Microsoft, and I love the people who work there, and I use your tools when I can't avoid it. But when what I see though is that the very structure of the organisation causes decisions to be made that are not in the best interests of every individual. And it's not anyone's particular person's fault, it's the structure, it's the design of the entity, which is a capitalist machine to produce profits. Like, the success of the companies is measured by excess money, mostly. The money extra to the business, which goes into the pockets of individuals. And that's, unfortunately, a driver I don't think we need. And so, it's not that I have a problem with companies, it's just how companies are focused. And data, one company, such as Google and Microsoft, through Office and apps, are able to see the internal operations of almost every company on the planet, companies they compete with. Now, I'm not saying they're looking at it, but we have a lot of very smart computer scientists with all that data. Do we know what they're doing?
I'd like to answer.
Yeah.
I agree conceptually, The thing is, that argument's been done before, right? And it's in many ways, it's a bit bold, but it's the same argument as communism, right? It really sticks on paper, right? It's like, hey, why don't we all work but share it like we love each other? Still didn't work, right?
Linux, man, you're using it.
The what again?
Linux. There's an example of a
open
system that
listen,
you're relying on.
And recently Microsoft, I want to recognize Microsoft efforts on this as well, have been the biggest contributors to open source. Much more than Moodle, much more than Linux, right? Like there's Google engineers that say, well, some people that are very open source focused say that Android owes everything to Linux. And the engineers say, well, how many users use Android and how many users use Linux? Like who's grateful to who? Right? Like in another way, right? Google has so much traffic internally that people don't even capture it. And some engineers say, well, Google, the internet, is like, well, if we cut Google from the internet, who's the internet? Like, at the end of the day, life's not about giving credit, it's about adding value, right? It's like, who can add more value to users, right? And if that were 100% true, that a company is designed in a way that it's maximizing profits and minimizing user value, those companies disappear. And we've seen companies that have been stuck on that and they're not here anymore. Like Microsoft is a great company, right? Is a great example because they've been fundamental to what computer science in a personal level is in the last 30 years. But in the last 10 years, I think it's valid to say that they lost some competitiveness in many fronts. You have the phone industry, the operating system, the browser, etc. And what did they do? They said, whoa, this ain't working. That structure that you defined was able to identify what wasn't working, found a CEO that I think is phenomenal, honestly, exactly what Microsoft needed, and started turning a ship to creating more and more value and regaining some competitiveness. So at the end of the day, companies behave exactly like organisms, right? They want to survive, and to survive, to my point before, they focus on using data. Now, the thing about data being hosted in private companies, I agree with you. That's to be respected. That's to be, whoa, let's see how we work on this, right? The thing is, that was exactly the same with electricity, right? People used to have their own energy at home, and their own fire, and their own gas, and their own oil, and someone said, hey, when do we get centralized companies to provide energy for everyone? You know, like, that wasn't welcomed at all. Like, I remember like reading a case study where like factories were saying, I have to depend on you, that you do your job for me to have electricity and my machines to work. What if you don't provide electricity one day? Are you going to pay everything I've lost? They didn't want to do it. And the reality is that the immense value that was created but centralized in electricity or energy, for a better connotation, was so big, both in terms of economic and safety and reliability, that the cons just were diminished, right? Were too little. And here's the same thing, right? There is a cost for companies like Amazon, Microsoft, or Google to have a lot of data hoarded, and it's going to get worse in that sense. It's going to get much bigger. The benefits are going to absolutely smash any cons. So what is the goal, right? Like, because we could say, oh, don't have the data. 10 years later, they have all the data, you've achieved nothing, right? I think the debate should be exactly what privacy laws should we have? Because the same way as cars, right? Like people were walking on a horse, then there's cars, and everyone's like, why are these machines that I can't afford going all running from these roads? And look at the driving code. You need a license to drive. I think we should need a license for many things. But definitely, like, one, it's to hold data, and those licenses are there. They're called certifications. They're called GDPR. And those conversations, that debate is, I think, where we should be focusing the energy, because we need to put rules. And you can never, by the way, you can never rely on a sector on self-regulation. Like BS on that. Sorry. So we all have to be part of the debate, and I think it's a really important one to have. And that it's happening.
Obi.
Yeah, it's totally.
You're a teacher.
I'm a teacher. Yes, exactly. And we own data. We own, as teachers, we own data. We own grades. We own family situation. We own where they live in. And what we're doing is struggling to put all this data together to get insights and be reactive or proactive into a better performing of our students. So AI on data and in education can help a student to personalize those education because getting all this data and putting intelligence on top of that. The thing is that, and the main question from my point of view is, what do you do with that data? Nothing that we are having right now exists without data. No Uber, no Cabify, no Netflix, no Airbnb, nothing. The thing is that what is your business model on top of that data? And we have examples of bad use of data, but we have in education very good examples of good use of data. And this is about ethics, again, and believing. Imagine the lottery. I'm thinking of this every single day. Since the lottery, primitiva in Spanish, is being doing via internet. A question, is there a chance that the people drawing the balls knows which combination is not played to make it happen and accumulate the jackpot? Because they know every single combination that we played. So we trust that the lottery is not doing that. It's not cheating us, saying, okay, you're betting all for the 25, I'm gonna draw the 26. So when your company has, or my company in this case, is having another model of business, which is not using the data, and as Marc said, if we will disappear, as many of the companies have disappeared of that. Okay, it's a matter of trust, and I agree with you, it's a matter of trust. But from inside, I can tell you, we are trying to use those data to create value in the products. Value in the education, value in the life. We have a program called AI for Life, AI for Water, AI for Biodiversity. And those programs, I think that they are adding so much value to the society. And what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that the business model on top of the data is what we need to take care of. it's just...
Okay.
I cannot download Google Docs and use it on my own server. I cannot download these things you're talking about. I cannot see the algorithms. I cannot install them and own them. You own them. And the model of these companies is to control that environment. And yes, if you're using the data for good purposes, great, but I can't see that. We are also in Moodle, we have analytics tools that operate on the local data and do analytics and are aimed at the same things. I think AI is a great way to have a computer-aided teaching, computer-aided learning. No question. I think all of us computer scientists agree, and educators would love the assistance.
For me...
but it's who owns it?
I think we're having here a great opportunity. I mean, that has never happened before. I mean, we are 3 big companies. You are in the cluster. I think we need to do that more times, and we need to have that conversation, because we're talking about really what happens, what is important, and what is our philosophy of life, and we have a big responsibility. We have 10 minutes. Let's change the way of that. I had a lot of questions, but I will focus on just on 2 of them, okay? First of all, really easy. I mean, this Congress is in Hospitalet, Barcelona, okay? I'd like to talk about Barcelona as a IT hub, as a place where a lot of IT professionals, which is really difficult to find people. There's people coming from all around here. You have make a big bet for Barcelona. You are here. So what do you think about Barcelona as a technological hub, as a platform for developing your solutions and whatever? What do you see? What have you seen in Barcelona to come here?
So I travel a lot. I see the world. It's a very small planet we all share. And there are many different cultures. You know, these 2 big companies come from the US. We have all these other cultures. What I see in Barcelona is one of those melting pot cities where everything is here. Everything is going on. When I come here, I just meet so many interesting people with so many interesting ideas and people trying to hack what's possible today. What the city is doing here with the procurement, they're forcing open technology, they're building these new platforms for democracy at the city level. The last 4 years they've done here is amazing work. It's world-breaking work, and now they're spreading it. The 60 cities have signed on to copy these models and join that movement. I think that's it's indicative of the kind of that's going on here, you know, and I love it. I have so much energy, so yeah.
Yesterday, a colleague of mine from Denmark was asking, because, well, you can imagine how the rest of Europe is looking at Spain as a whole, right? They're thinking that they are where we are down there. And they asked me, don't you have ed clusters? Do you have tech clusters? And I said, well, I'm going to Barcelona to have the unique and the only tech cluster for education that we have in the whole country. And I think it is a matter of agenda. It is a matter to have a clear strategy and follow that strategy. We have been trying, and let's focus on education and technology. We have been trying to digitalize our classrooms since, I don't know, 2000 maybe. And the success, well, we can say that it was like so-so, right? We have tried to throw devices with no sense to the schools. We tried to create different distributions for every single region in Spain. So instead of using open source in a good way, that we create different Linux distributions for every. So we're putting a lot of resources on doing the same. And having a clear agenda that I think Barcelona is having in terms of being there, being in front of the first row, having a clear agenda, I think is one of the key points that why they are succeeding.
Marc.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, the agenda is everything, right? I'd even see your call and raise division, right? And, you know, a good friend of mine says that no one likes to hear bad news. But I think it's super important to be critical, like so much more than to be appraisal, right? And I think I was reading at the question because you said perhaps you were going to ask about this, right? And I've been giving it a lot of thought, and I don't think that Barcelona has the tech edge it used to have. That's my very honest opinion. Now, bear in mind, I think Barcelona is one of the best cities to live in the world. Full stop. I just moved here. So, you know, bit of criticism, bit of praise. I definitely love this city. I'm not from here, I'm from Valencia, but I absolutely love it, and I'm settling down here. I just think that, you know, I don't know what the vision of the government is around innovation, about tech, or about startups. Barcelona happens to be one of the biggest startup hubs in Spain, a big one in Europe, but we still don't have international incubators. No, we have very little presence of them, which instead of legalizing self-driving cars, we're blocking technology-driven companies that added value to users. And those are anecdotal, but I just don't see what the vision is. What is the vision of a city? Which I think is one of the hardest challenges to do, right? But you can see UK, you can see Sweden, you can see Beijing in China, you can see San Francisco, you can see Austin, Phoenix, all betting for cutting-edge technological innovations. Vancouver, we're doing a project with Sidewalk Labs, which is a company of Alphabet, in order to urban redesign through technology. And one of the things that it does is getting traffic under the road. We're seeing renewable energy going to different lengths, not just reinvesting in the new ones, completely needed, but really pushing the boundaries of what that is. And I don't see neither the conversation, neither the events, the talent, or the companies existing here. So this is a message. This is a call. It's like, we want more of this. Barcelona is such a fertile ground. That is a really good thing that I think probably one of the best things the city has is that it's very fertile to innovation, right? Like people really have a work ethic that is amazing. There's a lot of talent, and I just want to see more of that.
Okay, thanks a lot. So I think he dicho que eran 2 preguntas, nos quedan 3 minutos y voy a terminar el debate. De verdad, os quiero agradecer, pero muchísimo que estéis aquí. O sea, esto creo que no había pasado antes. Creo que tenemos que hacerlo, de verdad, tenemos que hacerlo muchas otras veces en el marco del clúster, en el marco de otras reuniones. Creo que es súper interesante compartir visiones, posicionamientos de cómo vemos el mundo, cómo vemos el futuro. Creo que estamos alineados en eso de la responsabilidad. Como clúster hablo y como sector educativo, creo que no hay ninguna duda de todo eso. Y tenemos que hablar, comunicarnos y construir para que eso sea realidad, ¿no? Agradecer a Magí y a Educamos la presentación de este panel. Insisto, muchas gracias, porque sé que esto tenía un punto de arriesgado y vamos a repetirlo si esto es posible. Muchas gracias a todos y gracias a vosotros por escuchar.